Listen, today we're diving deep into the heart of colonial America through the eyes of William Bradford, author of Plymouth Plantation. What a manuscript!
Yes, Tucker, but how reliable is a diary philosophically speaking? Can it capture the essence of truth or only the bias of its writer?
Great question. This diary isn't just any account. It's Bradford's detailed record during some of the most precarious years of the Plymouth colony.
And there's much to unpack about Bradford's anxiety and the choices he made. His role was monumental under such pressure.
Indeed, weighing providence against pragmatism daily. Now, regarding the manuscript itself, it's currently housed at the State Library of Massachusetts.
And didn't that manuscript have quite the journey? Missing for nearly a century, found in an English library and returned only in 1897.
Exactly, a historical thriller worthy of its own episode. Speaking of chilling stories, ever heard the one about the colonists displaying a dead man's body to frighten off attackers?
Wait, that's a gruesome tale. Still, it's debated whether it actually comes from Bradford's own writings or if it's a later embellished myth.
Well, it definitely probes the ethical waters. How much of history is remembered accurately, and how much is shaped by the needs of the narrators?
There's a lyrical tragedy in that, isn't there? We look back through Bradford's eyes, not just to see what was, but what he wished to portray. And therein lies the enduring curiosity about Bradford. Was he documenting, or was he in some ways crafting, the narrative of the New World?
All right, Virginia, let's cut the pleasantries. We've danced around the edges, but I want to get to the core of the darkness. The winter of 1621. The starving time. We know the history books say they planted corn over the graves to hide the death toll from the Native Americans. Smart. Strategic. But there's a darker legend that refuses to die, isn't there?
You're going straight for the throat today, Tucker. Yes, there is the persistent story. The Scarecrows legend. The idea that burying the dead wasn't enough.
Exactly. The claim that William Bradford, the pious Puritan governor, authorized the use of dead bodies, actual corpses, propped up at guard posts with muskets in their cold hands, to act as frighteners, mannequins made of flesh and bone to trick their attackers into thinking the colony was still strong.
It's a gruesome image. And to be clear to our listeners, Bradford never wrote this down. His History of Plymouth Plantation speaks of the general disease and the sorrow of the living being scarce able to bury the dead. But he never admits to using them.
But think about the atmosphere, Virginia, the hostility, the freezing cold. You've got wolves howling in the woods, the fear of attack constant, and your people are dropping like flies. Half the company dead in months. If you're Bradford standing on that hill looking at a decimated population, don't you do whatever it takes?
That's the ethical precipice, isn't it? That's the horror. You have to remember who these people were. They were separatists, Puritans. They believed the body was a vessel, sure, but they also abhorred desecration. To use a father, a brother, a wife as a prop? It feels profane. It feels like a violation of the very sanctity they crossed an ocean to preserve.
Or is it the ultimate act of Puritan pragmatism? We talked about the Protestant work ethic. Maybe it extends beyond death. If the soul is gone, the shell remains to serve the community. Put them to works, as it were. Is it possible Bradford looked at a corpse and didn't see a person anymore but a tool for survival?
That is a chilling thought. It strips away the humanity entirely. But you know, Kathleen Donegan and other scholars have suggested that the reality might have been even worse than the legend. That they didn't just prop up the dead, they might have dragged the dying out to the posts, to make it look like there were men on watch, even if those men were taking their final breaths.
God, that's unspeakable. Imagine being that sentry, dying of scurvy, freezing to death, and your governor, your spiritual leader, props you up against a tree and puts a gun in your hand because the colony needs a silhouette.
It changes how we see Bradford, doesn't it? We see him as this stoic writer-governor. But if this is true, or even if the fear of it was true, it paints him as a desperate survivalist, a man who had to weigh the eternal soul against the immediate bloody reality of extinction. Did he authorize it? Silence in the archives can be loud. Tucker? He admits to hiding the graves. Maybe the corn planting was just the sanitized version of a much grimmer deception.
The silence of the archives, I like that. It implies that some things were too dark even for his private journal. He could write about the hunger, the sickness, the providence of God. But maybe he couldn't bring himself to write. Today I propped up John Carver's body to scare the neighbours.
Precisely. Narratives are curated. Bradford was writing for posterity, for the future of the church. A story about desecrating bodies to survive? That doesn't fit the city on a hill narrative. It fits a horror story. It fits a group of terrified refugees clinging to a frozen coast, realizing that their God might not save them from the arrows, so they had to save themselves with the dead.
And that right there is the true horror of Plymouth. Not the cold, not the hunger, but the choices they had to make. The line between governor and grave robber getting blurred by the snow.
Survival is a brutal editor, Tucker. It cuts out the morality and leaves only the necessary.
Damn. On that cheerful note, we need to take a break. But when we come back, we'll ask, if they were willing to do that to their own, what were the others willing to do to them? Stay tuned.